Keeping it moving, keeping it moving. What are we doing? We ain't moving.
And action. About to get into this Beanie Talks because you know it's almost Sunday, the best day of the week. Every day, we ride with Jesus. Hola, buenos días, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos
to Beanie Talks.
Number 11, hey!
Hey guys, welcome. We're so glad to be back with you. I'm Ilsian.
My name is Carlos. We do hope that this Sunday we have some Vortexers watching.
Welcome!
Well, they're no longer Vortexers.
You have been promoted to eYTH, so welcome. We are
Come
so
on.
glad to have you.
Air hug. If you're tuning in for the first time, we're super excited.
Yeah.
And if you've been tuning in, we're so
Hey,
excited.
what's up?
We see you. We see you in your PJs.
PJs.
Eating your Cheerios. All right, so you guys excited to have finished school?
I hope so.
I bet you are. Here's the thing though. We want to start off this morning with doing a little fill in the blank. And
Yes.
we don't want it to feel too much like school. This is gonna be fun, fill in the blank. So
when we say fill in the blank, we'll say a statement, and then you guys in the chat type in what fill in the blank is.
yeah, so
Got
we
it?
want you to answer.
Chat it up.
Those of you who are watching us live, and if you're watching later on in the week, still do it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can still comment.
Okay, and we're gonna do it with you.
Yeah.
First thing that comes to mind, don't overthink it. Number one is summers in Oregon are. Summers in Oregon are. I went with long.
I went with beautiful because that's what I've heard. I've never experienced an Oregon summer.
Yeah, this is our first Oregon summer, and I walk outside at 9:30, and I think it's 5 p.m. and I am like I'm in the twilight zone. I'm scared sometimes. Next.
Nikes are, fill in the blank. Nikes are.
Okay, hope you wrote yours in. Mine is. Hey, dope.
Expensive.
Not unless you can get some discount.
It's still expensive for my budget.
You guys having fun? Question number 3.
Chat it up. Let us know what you think.
Yes. Number
Next
3.
one.
First thing that comes to mind. TikTok is. Ready? TikTok is wild.
I said TikTok is fun and dangerous.
Yeah. Well, can't you use 2 words?
Yeah.
Dang, it's the rules.
I can fill in the blank. All right. Online school is fill in the blank.
Oh. Tough.
I said over.
Yeah, make some noise if you are excited.
At least for now.
A little bit of a break. Okay, last one. Last one. We are going to be enjoying watching these comments live, so hopefully you're still playing with us. This is the last one. Quarantine life is. I
don't even know how to
That's it. That's our answer. I think
You
our
left it
sound.
blank? I'm like, I
I think the sound that I made was. You know when you get close to the puppy that you want to pet and they're just
don't know.
growling?
It's growling.
That's quarantine life. It's grr.
I put
Quarantine life is grr.
IDK. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for playing fill in the blank, the fun version, but we're actually gonna dive into
Yeah.
some serious stuff here. So we want to continue to fill in the blank, but this time we don't want you to write down or comment.
No, just think about it.
We just want you to think.
Use your noggin.
And that even means like don't even say it out loud.
Yeah.
Just think.
What you think. The first one is Republicans are fill in the blank.
Democrats are.
Fill in the blank. Black people are.
White people are.
Cops are.
Racism is.
America is.
So, we wanted to talk about this morning what informs our filling in the blank.
Yeah. How do we do that?
Or another way to say it is what informs our assumptions and judgments.
Because that's what fill in the blank is, right? There is an assumption or a judgment about whatever it was. Like mine for Nike was, they're expensive because the ones I always like are really expensive. So that's my assumption out of my experience.
Yeah, and for me, like out of my experience when I think of summers, Oregon summers, like my experience is California summers. And so it does not stay this light outside in California.
Yeah.
So based on my experience, it feels long. It feels like night never comes. Even though I'm enjoying it, I'm not complaining, but that's just my experience, right? And so with some of these serious questions that we asked you to think about, which thank you for participating in. What informs our thoughts on these words?
Yeah, because the truth is, even though we don't say them out loud, we all think them.
Yeah.
About different things. You know, we mentioned a few things, but it could be about anybody. It could be a group of people. It could be about the things that we see, like, and we don't always fill in the blank out loud, but we tend to think it, or at least we shouldn't, right? And we all tend to fill in the blanks about other people. We assume we know, and so that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about the experiences that you have. We're talking about just the culture that we're living, specifically social media. We're talking about your feed, your news feed. How is the things that you're looking at on your news feed adding to your assumptions and judgments about other people and people groups, right?
Yeah.
We're also asking you to consider the community that you grew up in, the household that you live, your parents' worldview. How is that shaping and influencing the way you're filling in the blank to other people?
Because that's all part of our experiences or lack thereof. They all inform the assumptions we make or how we fill in the blank about other people or insecurities.
Absolutely.
The fears that we've grown up with. The insecurities we have. So all those affect how we're going to fill in the blank about someone.
So we want to stop and just recognize and be honest with what is filling in our blank. And we want to actually elevate Jesus as being the dominant voice, the dominant influence in our judgments and assumptions. That is our eYTH truth that we want to give you, and we're going to express it just like this. Let love fill in the blank. Let's do that again. Let love fill in the blank. And what that means is let Jesus, his way, his truth, his life, fill in the blank. So we're going to be looking at a moment in Jesus' life, and we want to encourage you to go there with us. We're going to have the scripture on the screen, but it is found in the book of John,
chapter 8,
and it's verses 3 through 11, and we are going to read it together.
It says, as he was speaking, and that's Jesus. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery. They put her in front of the crowd. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. And the law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? Verse 6. They were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, and then we'll stop there.
Yeah.
So in these first few verses that we read, I want to point out the three different characters in the story.
Yeah.
So there's Jesus, who is teaching, and then there is a woman who is brought before Jesus, who is caught doing rated R things. And then there's the men, the religious leaders the ones that bring her to Jesus, but also in verse 6 says they are the ones that are trying to trick Jesus, to trap him. So they bring this woman, and they're the ones that are trying to trap Jesus. So I just want you to understand different characters in this story of what's going on.
Yeah, and the first observation that I want to make is particularly with these Pharisees, these leaders, right? We understand very clearly, because Scripture says is that they are trying to trap Jesus.
Yeah, trying to catch him off guard.
And so their purpose for bringing this woman who was in an R-rated situation, their intentions is self-motivated.
Yeah.
So they're wanting Jesus to judge her, to assume things about her for their own gain, their own agenda.
Yeah.
And so how often are people groups, race groups, portrayed in a way, whether it's social media, whether it's the news, whether it's wherever in culture, how often is someone portrayed negatively because of someone else's agenda?
Yeah.
And I believe as followers of Christ,
Or even their own assumptions, right?
Or their own assumptions. It could be ignorance. But we need to be aware. We need to ask ourselves, what is the intention of this portrayal? Is there more to this, right? I believe that Jesus is showing us that he saw right through them. He knew their hearts.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to play their games. And so if we want to be like Jesus and let love fill in the blank, we got to ask ourselves the question, what is the intention behind the portrayal of this group here?
Yeah, because the text says very clearly that they caught this woman in the act. Like she was, in the middle of it. So it was already humiliating enough. But she was brought, and then we continue to read in verses 6b and on. It says, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. They kept demanding an answer. So he stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. When the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more.
This story is that Jesus was surrounded by guilty people. And what I mean by that is the Pharisees and the leaders were guilty because they were using this woman for their own agenda. They weren't treating her as a human being.
Yeah.
And this woman was guilty because she was sinning. She was sinning sexually.
Yeah.
He was guilty. I mean, he was surrounded by a bunch of guilty people.
Yeah.
And only he was in a position to condemn.
Yeah.
And so by him saying, hey, whoever is without sin, let him cast the first stone, he actually gave these religious leaders an out. Notice that from the oldest to the youngest, they started to drop the stone and walk away. That was their grace moment. That was their opportunity to not be judgmental.
Yeah.
To realize they are being hypocritical in taking this woman's life.
And I think that's the moment that they realized, because they had this plan, and this plan was, we're going to do this so we can trap Jesus. They realized in that moment that their plan just kind of dissolved. It backfired on them, And so, and Jesus, it was exposed. Jesus kindly and lovingly releases not only the woman, but he also releases them, of their own entrapment, right? And so I see this and I'm just like, wow, Jesus gives them freedom and tells them to live differently, especially this woman.
Yeah, and we gotta acknowledge that Jesus did not tell the woman, hey, it's all good. You're good. I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna condemn you. No, he says, I am choosing not to condemn you because he could have.
Yeah.
But he does say, go and sin no more. And there we see the balance that God has shown us is he calls us out on our junk.
Yep.
There is truth in God, but he also shows immeasurable grace.
Yeah, and I think when Jesus says go and sin no more, like I think he's saying like it doesn't matter like your reputation. He believed that change was possible for her.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that way of thinking of Jesus. He believes that change is possible for anyone that encounters grace, that encounters Jesus. And so I think, and that I want to have that assumption about people.
Yeah.
I want to look at people and look at them and say, oh yeah, man, like you are able to change and you are able to, you know, it's possible for you to change. It's possible for you to live differently.
So what would it look like if we were like Jesus and allowed love to fill in the blank? What if we lived our lives that instead of having our own limited experiences, our insecurities, our fears, our bias influence, instead of allowing those things to drive our assumptions and judgments, what if we allowed Jesus and his kingdom and his grace and his way to inform how we are going to treat other people? There's nothing wrong with having wrong judgments about people. What's wrong is when we act on those judgments
And they
and
stay that way.
devalue. And we know that we are all made in the image of God. And so we all have equal value. Regardless of race, regardless of political party, regardless of orientation, we all have equal value. And so we want to make sure we are loving people in that way, but at the same time holding on to the truth that God has revealed in his word and ultimately is what's best for us.
Because what Jesus did in doing what he did is he proved that we are more than assumptions or judgments that people make of us, that others make of us, right? We are more than judgments or assumptions. And we are worthy of forgiveness and grace. Why? Because Jesus died on the cross to give us forgiveness and grace. We're not worthy on our own. We are worthy of forgiveness and grace because of what Jesus did on the cross. And so we all have this second chance because of his love for us. And we can extend the same forgiveness and grace and love to others too. So like, you know, we have received by grace, but we're also to give, right? When we have received, we are to give. So I think this is what Jesus is saying, like you are so much more than the assumptions and judgments that people make about you. And so what if we chose, like Carlos said, to let love fill in the blank? When you look at others, when you see people, what if you let love fill in the blank? Instead of being quick to judge and throw that first stone. I think one of the things when these assumptions or judgments start flying at you, right? Because we don't even know that we're doing it. We just start doing it, right? We just start making assumptions. But what about when these assumptions or judgments come to you? Why don't we stop and think about what assumptions have been made about me? What have people assumed about me or judgment have they made about me? And then also think about what assumptions have you made about others that like once you meet them, you're like, whoa, they are so not what I thought they were, right? So let's stop when those things come flying at us. Stop and really think about it.
Well, we know that this is a big conversation, and we know that conversations like this one deserve ongoing dialogue. And so this Wednesday, we invite you to participate in our in-person or our online small group where we are going to be discussing this Beanie Talks. And so if there was interest or if you have questions, that will be an opportunity. Wednesday will be an opportunity for you to dive in and allow us to all benefit from us engaging and thinking and hopefully becoming more and more like Jesus.
Letting love fill in the blank.
Amen. Well, eYTH, we love you. Thank
We
you
do.
for spending this time, and we hope that you have a great week and you're enjoying your summer.
And hopefully we'll see you Wednesday, either in person or via Zoom. So make sure you're following us on eYouth Instagram page. We'll be posting announcements there on Facebook as well. So follow us, that way we know.
Okay, we're gonna do one more fill in the blank.
Yeah.
eYouth is.
Let's go.
eYouth is. Hey!
What?
Awesome!
We both said the same word.
We didn't plan that.
All right. Love you guys. Happy Sunday.